Tomorrow is root day, but today I have been in my garden. I came in, I was washing my strawberries. I got my strawberries from Costco, got the organic kind. I was washing them and they were filthy, probably the filthiest strawberries that I've seen. So I'm like, I just wanted to make a video about pesticides, herbicides, fungicides, and insecticides. Pesticides is really a broad term for any substance that is going to kill, repel, or control pests. So that could be weeds, that could be insects, fungi, or even microbes. Herbicides, they are mostly plants and weeds that compete with your crops, so that's what they target. Insecticides obviously target insects that can damage your crops. And fungicides will target fungi that can rot or even disease your crops. So that's kind of the difference between those. And how we differentiate something that is quote unquote organic or not organic is what kind of substances they use. Are they synthetic or are they non-synthetic? And so with organic produce, they still can use pesticides, but it's not synthetic. Synthetic is going to be things like man-made chemicals like glyphosate or atrazine. And the non-synthetic pesticides are going to be derived from natural substances. It could even be from like microbes or plants or even minerals. And they still have to be regulated, but these can be things like neem oil or even the derivative from chrysanthemums. It starts with a P, pyrethrin, I believe. But again, these still have to be regulated. Natural doesn't mean non-toxic. So I know a good friend of mine, she doesn't use neem oil because of the bees. People will say use neem oil only at night, not during the day. And a lot of the studies that you'll see, it is in very high amounts, and this typically is going to be related to the workers or the farmers that are dealing with the synthetic pesticides, herbicides, insecticides one-on-one in very high amounts. So you'll see people argue that is that you would have to be exposed to extremely toxic amounts, which people are in these fields, and also be exposed to as a consumer as well. And that would be in much lower doses from the produce that you're buying, or even if you are spraying your yard killer, or you're using types of soils or substances on your garden beds or in your yard, that could also be exposing you as well. So what I was focusing on is the long-term low-dose consumption from the consumers. And what I had learned a few years ago in my master's was primarily we were focusing on thyroid complications. And with that, it has been linked to hormone disruption and then T3, T4 imbalance. So we think of T3 as the gas pedal and reverse T3 as the brakes. So when someone has their thyroid panel come back, we can look at subclinical. If you have subclinical hypothyroidism, we have primary hypothyroidism, and depending on what those levels are, we can gauge on what it is. But basically, when I'm trying to explain to someone how the thyroid works, we're going into the brain and we have the TRH and the TSH, the thyroid stimulating hormone. And then we get into T4 production, and there are certain vitamins and minerals with deficiencies, even stress. What they're looking at is the T3 and the T4. So T4 is the inactive hormone, T3 is active. So it's that is converted to T4 to T3. So also what is shown in these studies is the neurological effects, especially in children or pregnant women. And you may be wondering, what kind of pesticides are they? What should we be avoiding? And there are different substances. There's organophosphates, there's also glyphosate, and there's chloropyrifos, which is banned in a lot of different countries, and synthetic pyrethroid is where the reproductive and the thyroid issues come in play. Some people are critical of the EWG, the Environmental Working Group, and the Dirty Dozen and the Clean 15. I just see it as a reference. We need to buy organic, and then those that we can get away with non-organic. So I'm just going to read the list. For one, at the heaviest pesticide residue after washing, so they washed this produce and then they tested it. Strawberries was number 1, spinach was number 2, kale, collard greens, mustard greens was number 3, number 4 was grapes, number 5 peaches, 6 pears, 7 nectarines, 8 apples, 9 bell and hot peppers, 10 cherries, 11 blueberries, and 12 green beans. The Clean 15, these are the produce that they found after washing with the least pesticide residue. Sweet corn, avocados, pineapple, onions, papaya, sweet peas, asparagus, honeydew, melon, kiwi, cabbage, watermelon, mushrooms, mangoes, sweet potatoes, and carrots. So those are ones that you can buy non-organic, and they're going to have the least pesticide residue, and that's completely up to you if you want to do that. But I typically, especially anyone with thyroid issues and certain genetic variants that they don't have a good clearance on detoxification processes, we go definitely for organic on those Dirty Dozen. But Kayla, can we just wash off the pesticides? No. Systemic pesticides are absorbed into the plants while they're growing. And so this means that some chemicals can alter gene expression or function. We call that epigenetics. It happens to us as humans. Washing will remove the surface pesticides, but it's not the internal chemical changes that are absorbed. What makes a produce organic? So when it says organic, it does not use synthetic pesticides, herbicides, or fertilizers. It's non-GMO, and animals must be raised with the organic feed and no antibiotics or hormones. So there's that. And then when we get into the nitty-gritty, when people say, well, organic really doesn't mean organic, when we're looking at the label, it does matter because they can be pretty sneaky with it. If it says 100% organic, that means that all organic ingredients were used. If it says organic, it means at least 95% ingredients were organic. And then made with organic, you'll see that on there, like made with organic ingredients. That means at least 70% of that product is made with organic ingredients. What can you use that is more natural? I mentioned neem oil before and how there is controversy on that. It is recommended to use neem oil that is diluted. Use it at dawn to dusk when the bees are not as active. Do not spray the flowers. You can spray the plants. And you can also use diatomaceous earth. It is an insect killer. It basically dehydrates them, so that is pretty harsh. Neem oil is anti-fungal and also insecticidal. Companion planting. So in my garden, I have dill with my cucumbers. I use sacrificial crops like radishes and mustard. And then I also put flowers in there like marigolds with my tomatoes. And I'll also put calendula in there and a few other like borage. And I mentioned dill already. And chamomile over by my carrots. So you can use companion planting that is really beneficial. If you're wondering, this is how I wash my produce. I take about 4 to 1-ish, I do not measure, ratio of filtered water and white distilled vinegar. I let that set in there for a few minutes, and then I will top it off after I'm done letting it soak for a sec with baking soda. I use Bob's Red Mill. It kind of gets in the nitty gritty, especially in the strawberries, like around it, and it just pulls everything up. So you'll see a lot of that being pulled up, and that's how I wash it. And then you rinse and dry.